This is the K-Pop Cast, and in this week's episode, we're discussing the hot topic of the K-pop market's potential decline. Dropping album sales has many folks very concerned for the future.
We also share hit replays from XG, Irene, History, Zion T, and Crush.
And this week, we are so excited to be joined by two very special guests, experts in the K-pop industry. First, we have dear friend of the pod, Tamar Herman, on the show.
Woo! I feel like I should be like cheering. Thank you, thank you. Yeah. So glad to be back with you all. Thanks so much for inviting me back on.
Yes, and is there, anything you wanted to share about your role or your relation to K-pop?
I am a journalist who's covered K-pop for many different outlets, including Billboard and Forbes. I'm the author of the book BTS Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I've been in a few documentaries. I love K-pop. I don't know what else to say.
Most important.
Oh, I have a newsletter. I have a newsletter called Notes on K-pop. If you want to look that up, it'd be great. Please subscribe.
I was about to say, if you are a listener of our show and or in our Slack, you should have already been subscribed to Tamar's amazing newsletter.
Required reading.
Mm-hmm.
And then our second special guest is Pip from Sarang. Hello. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for having me. First time guest on the K-Pop Cast. And I'm one of the owners of the Bay Area's original K-pop store, Sarang Hello. And that's what I'm hoping to contribute to today's conversation is, the K-pop album sales side of things. And yeah, very excited to talk about that. And I'm also a proud owner of Blood, Sweat, and Tears, the book by Tamar. So very familiar with your work. And very excited to be, on the show with you as well. So again, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, Pip. But guys, before we get into our discussion for today, don't forget to join the K-Pop Cast listener fam on Slack. And of course, please help chip in for our editing costs, links to everything in the episode description. And as always, big shout out to Lady Sensa for chipping in a $15 subscription.
I'm Tamar.
I'm Pip.
I'm Stephanie.
And I'm your pseudonym, Michaela, everybody. And hit replays, of course, are our K-pop song recommendations for the week. So, Stephanie, kick us off. What is your K-pop hit replay?
My hit replay is XG's recent XDM remix of TGIF. XG is an all-Japanese girl group who debuted in 2022, taking the K-pop scene by storm with the 7 super talented members who are gorgeous. They can dance, they can sing, they can rap, they can really rap, y'all. And that is one of the most fun parts of my hit replay, which is the kind of EDM remix of one of their biggest bangers, TGIF. I actually listened to this song and I was reminded of other K-pop songs that have that banging female empowerment vibe, like I Am the Best by 2NE1. It kind of has that aggressive vibe to it. And I could just see myself working out and sweating up a storm to this song.
I am queen. Please with blessings, look at my body. Wake up, look up in the mirror. Sheesh, then got them fly.
Highly recommend that everybody check out this EDM remix album. They dropped a full album of EDM remixes that are really high quality, actually. So shout out. Hope to see more of this over the year.
Yeah, they never do anything. I was just going to say that actually I feel like, even though I haven't listened to it yet, nothing they do is low quality. I want to listen to it all. I just am behind this week. I've been rewatching the Grammys, not going to lie. It's so good. This year was good.
Oh. Yeah.
And just to hop on the praise for XG, yeah, I was fortunate enough to see them in concert last year, and I'm not surprised that they're dropping some EDM bangers because there's a whole ass DJ set in the middle of their show by their CEO slash producer, and yeah, wouldn't be surprised if they continue to do a lot of stuff like this.
Yeah, their style just fits so perfectly with EDM, with live performance, with festival. They're going to be at Coachella, I think, again. So it's just onward and upward for XG. And so, Michaela, what is your hit replay?
Yeah, we're gonna 180 switch it up right now, because my hit replay is a classic, it's a very slow jam R&B song from 10 years ago now. It's celebrating its 10-year anniversary this month in February and January, or no, in February. Sorry. My hit replay this week is Zion T and Crush's Kanyang, or Just, and Zion T and Crush. We know them now today as like two colossal names in Korean R&B space, as well as just like very accomplished solo musicians, like individually. So it was really fun to like think back to how their careers were like in 2015, and this was their first number one together. First, they won Best Collab at Mama for this song in 2015. So it's something that's like really important for them as far as like the beginning of their career at that time. But also, if you think to their relationship, I feel like this song is also really important, because when you look back at the history of like Crush, they both got their start at Amoeba Culture, which was Dynamic Duo's label. And Dynamic Duo describes them as like twins. Like they were besties for real, like when they started their careers. But when around the time that Zion T moved to the Black label, Crush unfollowed him on Instagram, which was obviously the universal sign of I don't mess with you anymore. So it was a scandal. It was a tumultuous time when this was happening, because the besties were not besties anymore. And this song kind of marked the beginning of the reunion, because in 2018 Crush was having a little concert and this song comes on and Zion T joins him on stage, and of course the crowd went crazy and they had to sing the song for them, because they were just wrapped up in this emotional moment of like performing together for the first time after they had this falling out, and they were just embracing each other and being very emotional. And so I just had to share this song, not just because of like the 10-year anniversary, but because like how important it is for these two amazing artists and their relationship with each other.
네가 내게 무심코 뱉어댄 차가운 말들 몰래 속앓이 해원래 당연하단 듯 어차피 안 이루어져 뻔해 잘 알아 동정 따윈 더 이상 나 바라지도 않아 초라해지기 싫어서
Oh, we can always count on PD Neem to bring the tears and the feels.
For real. And like the lyrics of the song, it's Kanyang, because they're saying, don't worry about my heart hurting, just pass me by. And so it's like, the feels.
Oh my gosh.
That's the K-drama I want to see at some point.
Right?
Ooh, the K-drama about their like breakup and reunion.
Absolutely.
She got
That'll be fire.
Seongguk.
Oh yeah, I gotta get Seongguk. Oh, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you for
But
sharing.
Yeah, but Tamar, take us even further back in history by like what 11
Even
years
further
ago, right?
back.
It's
So what
20.
is, what
It's a
is your hit replay?
2013 release.
Ooh.
Sorry. Do you want to say wait?
No, keep going. It's good.
Okay. My hit replay is a 2013 song by the boy band History called Dreamer. And IU was narrating on it, and she still is. I mean, if you listen to it, it's still IU on it. If you're not familiar with History, you probably 100%. There was a reason I mentioned this song. It wasn't just because I do love this song and I hum this song all the time, and I am very sad that I never saw History perform this song, although I was lucky enough to see them perform some other things that year.
최고의 순간이면 내 전부 바꿀 결정적 그 순간이면 One step 내 뒤에 널 태우고 Two step 저 높이로 나르고 아주 미칠 듯 못질 테니까 놀라지 마요 You are so beautiful you One step 가슴에 날 채우고 Two step 저 단추를 채우고 이제 다른 것을 보지 마요 한 곳만 바라봐
I saw Triple S last night in New York. The concert was in New York the night before we were recording, and one of the members, Jung Ye-jung, you probably might be more familiar with his producing name, El Capitan. So he now is like producing for BTS and all the Hybe labels, and he has Artemis songs and he has Triple S songs, and so like this is my History was my babies. All their albums are amazing. They're unfortunately disbanded too early, too young. But this song, it's like it feels like I'm a musical girly. Like this morning, I was getting dressed and listening to Hamilton soundtrack, and this is like a big, like it's a big club, big swing musical number, and like it's so romantic and beautiful. Like you have the big orchestra and everything. It's just like I love this song so much, and so I wanted to talk about it, but also be like, hey, he's making fire tracks nowadays that are very, very, very different from this. But so yeah, I really love this song so much. That's it.
It's great. Yeah, thank you for like bringing that back into our awareness. Those of us who were around in K-pop, like this was a nice blast from the past, a memory. And I was like, oh yeah, I used to have this song in my playlist and it dropped off. Now it's back on.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh yay!
Yeah. Well, no, I was just gonna say thank you so much for recommending this because I'll be honest, I didn't really know that much about History. Most of the history with History is all of the comebacks where they take off their shirts.
I
So
mean,
it was nice to see
it's
a
a
different
great
side
entry
of
point.
of their discography that I hadn't heard before.
They're very brief. Like life was many iterations of many generations of them in like a very short time, and I loved every single song that they put out, no matter how shirtless or shirted they were. Wearing a shirt, they were.
Awesome. And it's also just an example of like you connecting the dots to like once a group disbands, like the talent, the members don't just like go away and disappear. So many of the idols from second generation, third generation are still in the industry today as producers or just like behind the scenes more or still performing in some cases. So it's not like your career totally ends. Like it can transform. And yeah, the talent doesn't go away. So thank you for highlighting that. And finally, let's hear from Pip. What's your hit replay?
So
Hit
my
replay
hit
of the
replay, my hit replay
You would.
of the week. My hit replay of the week is going to be from Irene, who released her first solo project late 2024. I want to say the end of November. I should know because we have them in store. But this is a B-side from her album called Summer Rain. And I think the reason why I chose this song is, well, number one, Red Velvet is my favorite K-pop group overall. And ultimately, I think, this is...
Michaela is beaming with pride as you say that.
Awesome. I found another one. That's great. But yeah, for her to have her solo debut after 10 years of being in the industry, I think is just such an interesting and like kind of says a lot about Red Velvet's journey and how they've kind of existed within SM's empire, and then her place as well as being like this, this visual and what that means within K-pop and how they're perceived. And this kind of applies to Chewie of Twice as well, who also put out a solo last year. I think when the visual is able to, the quote unquote visual is able to kind of prove themselves in a way musically, it is such an inspiring thing in a way, because I don't think they rarely are considered to be like the most musically inclined or musically talented members of their groups, and sometimes they can be relegated to the background, or the face card is always the most prominent thing about them. So I think Irene really showed out quite well with her release, and this song in particular has a nice like dreamy nostalgic vibe, and I kind of just love those types of songs, ones that you can listen to literally on like a rainy day and just kind of like feel good and such. But yeah, I think she made some really cool choices with this album, songs that really fit her vocal range and her vocal tone. And again, I think that's what it comes down to for a lot of like K-pop idols, especially if you're in a big group, is how do you kind of define yourself outside of that and find like the sound that really works with you. You know what I mean? So yeah. So check it out.
눈을 감으면 잠시 세상은 without you, without you. 너 꿈처럼 다가와 난 한눈에 알아본 그 여름에 널 기억해 내 맘을 채워줄 summer rain. I know 가만히 찾아들어 서로를 안았던 like the eye of a hurricane, a daisy cut in the summer rain. I know you're the one to hold me so close.
Thank you so much, Pip. You have no
Hey.
idea how because I am the resident Revelove on our podcast.
Okay,
And
okay.
I loved this album, and this is my favorite B-side from the album. Like, it's one of those
Ooh.
songs where I just like I want to laugh to it, I want to cry to it. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
it and the imagery is so beautiful. Like the lyrics of like the daisy caught in the summer rain. It just like it immediately takes me to a place that I just want to like live in. Like
Exactly.
I love it.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
I'm a casual Revelove, and I
Okay.
love this album. I think it might be my favorite solo album from any of them, which I feel like is like fighting words, but I really
Not at
love
all.
it. Start line, every time I hear it, I'm just like, this is a song. Like, I really was surprised how well they did. And I just think, like,
Yes.
just general shout out. As you were talking, I was like thinking of like Jaehyun from NCT. Like, he also put out a really, really great album, and like someone in their AR department is like, I understand you, to
Yes.
both of them, right? Like, I
Yeah.
understand how you can sing, I understand what you want to do. And Irene, like, seriously, she's my age, and she gives me so much hope. Like, you are so
Yes.
successful, Irene. Keep going. Drop, drop
Going
10
More
more,
albums.
years.
10 more years.
100%.
10 more
nice.
albums.
Nice
Yeah.
call
Yes,
on
more
the
importantly, 10
Jan.
more albums.
The Jan album. I know we're talking about a different album at this point, but yes, the Jan album was
Why not?
also an amazing. Honestly, a lot of like really great solo releases last year, and I think a lot of idols who got to really show out, and Jaehyun was one of them. Incredible voice.
Yep.
But again, you're in a group that has 20 plus members. Like, it's kind of hard to shine, and I think he really shined right before he enlisted. So good on him. And yeah.
I think that Irene shining so bright was such a shock. I feel like, because like, even though they only had 5, like, we know what she sounds like, we know she can sing, and we know she goes really well with the other girls, but I was just like, oh, you're amazing.
Exactly.
What a great pick.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for all of these amazing hit replays. It's pretty rare we have 2 guests or like have 4 selections, and so listeners just really are getting the bang for their buck here today. And so with that, we will transition over to our deep dive hot issue discussion.
Yeah, so I think, the reason we're talking about this is around January 19th, the Korean Customs Service put out a report that talked about basically things and metrics that were signaling what is considered a slowdown in growth of the K-pop industry over the past 10 years since 2015. And so we saw a lot of interestingly put together graphs trending around on social media, and people putting their 2 cents in as to like maybe why this is going on.
Thank you. And so since we do have expert guests on our show today, we wanted to just get maybe what was your first impression from your vantage point when you started to see either articles like this come out, or maybe you started to notice things in your own role, from your own point of view in K-pop. How did you feel, or what was your first thought?
Reading that article was actually one of a couple that I'd been using as reference points over the past couple months. I will say, as the owner of a K-pop store and whose business literally revolves around album sales, I can 100% confirm that, those numbers have had a huge impact on, our business. And yeah, we saw how it was trending for us just personally from our sales numbers. And yeah, just to see that it is more like a global kind of shift was both validating in a way, not that it inspires confidence in our business or anything like that, but at least it let us know that it's not just us.
Right.
But to share some specifics, we were experiencing by the end of like 2024 a near 30 to 40% decrease from the year before.
Wow.
Which, if any of you guys, ever have a business or have been involved in a business, those types of numbers are pretty bad, and hugely impactful. But thankfully, we're still here. We're surviving the storm, and but yeah, from my vantage point, it's something that we have to pay very close attention to, as well as strategize and be insanely creative as to how do we kind of adjust to what I perceive as the real kind of norm of what K-pop might actually be from a global and commerce perspective. And I'll get into it a little bit more later, but
Right.
yeah, I do think those high numbers that we saw the year prior in 23, in 22, there's definitely a sense of like inflated, overly boosted interest and appeal from like the pandemic period. And so I think what we're seeing now is sort of like that wave coming down, and just this is what sea level looks like, which is still pretty good actually. Sea level, we can survive. Our store, we can survive at sea level. We just have to understand that now that the wave is slowed down, like how do we what do we do around that? And yeah, we're it's a challenge that we're looking forward to taking on. So yeah.
Can I put on the journalist hat and ask you
Yes.
a specific question about the decrease you mentioned? Is it
Yes.
album sales are decreasing, or your overhead costs are more expensive just because of like
Honestly,
our
what has
albums more
been-
expensive?
It's been a little bit of both, and I don't think the base price of albums themselves have changed all that much, but there are just a lot more offerings from K-pop companies in 2024 and onwards, both from the merchandise side and you go, and this is both a good and a bad thing, but let's go back to Red Velvet for a second. But you have their Chill Kill album, for example. You have two photo book versions. You have member versions for the smaller compact disc versions, the SM minis, and now you also have a really cute like velvet bag, like an actual purse as an album, which is amazing and we love. But at the same time, as a consumer, like there definitely is a level of oversaturation at this point, and I think when you have so many options to purchase from, you can't get everything, and so I think that overhead is where we're trying to kind of figure out the right mix of how much to get of all these different versions of a single album now that they produce. Hats off to the creativity and all that, but yeah, it is definitely like a lot to carry for a single release. And as you guys know, there's almost like 50 plus releases per month to carry and such. And then for the first part of that question, I think overall album sales have dropped, and there are a lot of factors that I'm sure we're going to talk about as we go on. But yeah, like I said, it was like a 33% drop, and this was even before like the holidays. And then when the holidays came, we were expecting a bump. We got a slight bump, but overall, I think, that 33% dip was kind of the true number that we were going to get for the entire year of 24. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, it sounds like Sarang Hello is going to be positioned to meet the challenge, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about the strategies and like brainstorming creativity here. I did want to pass it to Tamar and just see from your vantage point, being a K-pop journalist, and these articles started to come out. Maybe what were some of your impressions or questions? Like I saw you put your journalist hat on a moment ago, but yeah, what was your impression as this news started to come out?
Well, then I took it off and started looking at Sarang Hello's website, and I was like, oh, which album should I buy?
Yeah.
Although there's a lot sold out, so I was like, I gotta do some searching and see what's missing from my collection. Twice as Eyes on Me. That's like my go-to that I need to buy. It's just one I don't have and I want it. I have a lot of thoughts on this. Like, I think, first of all, something that's interesting that's happened is like, you mentioned PDNE. You were mentioning that like there were graphs and everything online, and like I stopped using Twitter regularly over a year ago. I'm on threads where like there's some K-pop memery, but there's not a lot of like there's not a lot of the discourse like about the business, except for like a few people I follow. Like it's mostly memes and like funny videos. And then on Blue Sky, everything's just political. There's very little K-pop. That's not just like a few music writers talking about it. And like I see stuff on Instagram, but it's not the same sort of like, I don't see the charts. Like I don't see the graphs people are making. I don't see the conversation people are having. So like, I know from the business perspective as a journalist, like I understand the news and I have some thoughts about it, and I'm not so sure if like I'm so curious about the fan reaction that like, I saw people talking about it on Reddit, but like I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. Like I kind of disagree with your take on it, but I didn't realize how widespread it was, maybe. And like, I'm fascinated, but also terrified that I wasn't on the ball. And I'm like, oh God, I'm washed up. I'm not on top of the trends. I'm not as addicted to my phone as I once was.
That's a good thing.
Yes, that is a very good thing, Tamar. It's okay.
So like, would somebody mind contextualizing kind of like from your perspective how you first started getting it, like seeing people talk about this? I'm so curious.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, PD Neem, jump in.
Yeah, so there was an initial, because again, I don't trust graphs that I see on Twitter. So I'm not going to quote directly from the things that I was seeing on the graphs, but visually what you saw was a very steep ascend and in the physical albums, or just the kind of the Korean market in general, and then an immediate drop off in 2024. But what the was it Choosung Daily article quotes Sorry, did I say that wrong?
No, go ahead.
Which one?
Yeah, quotes from the report from the Korean Customs Service is physical album exports in 2024 totaled 423.8 billion won, so around $290 million, reflecting a very modest 0.55% increase from the previous year. So it's not necessarily from, at least from that perspective of the specifically looking at the metric of physical albums, it's not necessarily as dramatic, I think, as some of the graphs maybe were highlighting, but that is significant, at least from the like kind of the Korean market perspective, because sales of albums are really important indication of like how the market is doing in general.
Okay, so I'm gonna be obnoxious and disagree. I think that
Yeah, please.
that article itself is saying like it's only a small increase, but the increase itself, they're not saying it's a regression. They're essentially saying the growth isn't as much as it once
Growth
was. So
has
I think
slowed.
right, and like I think like of course the growth has slowed. Like I could literally list off all the financial reasons that K-pop fans who maybe a few years ago had more money because they were at home with the pandemic, or maybe their student loans were frozen, or maybe they weren't, a certain orange man in the White House wasn't, like there are so many, and like there's so much, there's so many, and forever growth is impossible. So I think a lot of these articles I won't say that I don't think there will be a dip. I don't think that the forever growth is impossible, but I think that like generally I see these articles as kind of like people overestimating what growth looks like. Like when every time Bang Shiak has been like K-pop isn't growing as much as it once was, it's like that doesn't mean it's flopping. It just means that it's not growing exponentially, which is like important for businesses, but some of the most stable companies in the world are the ones that are like stable. Right, like which one of the water bottles? I was like reading a business report about that. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Take that part out. Like,
Sure.
right, like Converse, yeah, they have new, deals, or Nike's. Like Nike is gonna be like maybe they'll have some growth because they have a new collaboration or a new launch, but like they're gonna have pretty regular growth all year for like foreseeable future as long as people are wearing athleisure. Right? Like the growth isn't going to go exponentially unless like, I don't know, you put a swastika on one and then people stop wearing it. I don't know. So I feel like K-pop, because so much relies on the growth of K-pop, that people aren't like just like, oh, this is great. We still have like Stray Kids alone sold 30 million albums. Like that sounds like a lot of albums to me. So I'm kind of a naysayer. I'm like, oh, I don't know if it's fine. I just don't think it's like a dip.
It's
Maybe
not as
about
big of
digital
a
sales. Yeah.
it's not like a devastating crisis for K-pop as a whole, as an industry. What I hear you saying, maybe like I connect to it from my career in the tech industry, which is another, like the tech industry being like having that gold rush mentality of like, oh my gosh, we're gonna start this startup and chase returns that look like a vertical line and like raise as much money and make as much money as possible, and then nobody stays up there. Like it gets acquired or IPO and then douche, like it decreases. And like everybody knows that that's the game. That's part of the arc for all of those companies, all the big tech companies. Like all the big ones right now are either like in a stable place or kind of declining now, but they're still some of the most successful like companies in the entire world. So I think what I'm hearing from you is that this is an expected, realistic arc for K-pop to follow, as it kind of, and this also connects to what you were saying, Pip, like no need to freak out that K-pop is going away or that people don't like it. It's just impossible to keep an exponential meteoric rise indefinitely for anybody. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, like this is the norm. Like I think what we saw previous, those really, really high peaks, and if you see it in a graph form, it's even more dramatic. But yeah, I think again that was the gold rush. That period was the gold rush, and now things are starting to normalize. That doesn't mean it's going away. It's just being normal. It's just going to be a normal part of our everyday music tapestry, our pop culture, world, and I think it'll be there. This breakthrough that it had, I think, kind of just ensures its place. If anything else, it doesn't need to have astronomical growth year after year to be considered like a powerhouse. It already is a powerhouse. And like Tamar said, like those sales numbers for a Stray Kids album, or for 17, which is one of the biggest performers back in 2023 with their, I think it was 16 million or so. Those are numbers that any artist would cut their arm off to get. And it's still truly impressive. There's like nothing, at least, okay, speaking from a business perspective, or K-pop business perspective specifically, a lot of this is something that we were expecting to happen. Like those years where it was peaking really, really high was like surprising to us, and obviously made us really, really happy. But at the same time, like, yeah, the reality was like, we didn't think it was going to be, we didn't think we were going to see those kinds of numbers like forever. And so, yeah, I think the same perspective as like, a fan, it's not doom and gloom. It's just more like, yeah, it's just part of everyday life now, versus a couple years ago where maybe we were like super obsessed with it. So, yeah.
Also, I want to hear from you too, because I feel like we're coming at it from like the very like, yeah, this is like reset in business, total normalcy. But like something that I feel like I want to point out before we get further is like the music industry overall is at is dipping.
Yes.
Like they announced Coachella so early this year because last year the tickets didn't sell well. That was the like festivals are closing, like people aren't shelling out money for music the way they were a few years ago. So like I just think generally like I'm like, nah, there's still a tiny increase of growth. You're fine. Like, I mean, I don't know if you're fine. I don't know if you're fine, but like I think that the multi-millions album sales don't make me be like, oh no K-pop ever again. I am concerned a little bit about certain other things that are related to it. I'm more concerned about streams, honestly, than sales, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my mind was going to, like we could take this in two directions, but my mind was going towards K-pop doesn't exist in a vacuum. K-pop performance is related to like South Korean economic performance, South Korean tech and media companies, and those companies' performance are related to the U.S. market, the U.S. tech market. Like I'm seeing here, one of the articles says that summer 2024, South Korea's entire stock market marked its worst session since the global financial crisis of '08 in 2024. Related to American tech companies slumping. And so like everybody is connected on this raft, right? And like it does go back to the US being the US's fault for everything, which I'm not surprised. But that makes me wonder, like, okay, the US economy, the US consumer struggling, maybe we overall are like feeling tighter wallets here and not wanting to spend. There seems to be a mismatch between how much money we have, how much disposable income we American consumers have these days, and maybe how much inventory the Korean labels are making available and throwing over here. That's maybe a little bit of what I'm hearing from you, Pip. There might be a mismatch where the K-pop labels are shooting for the moon. Here, more tours, more albums. And we're over here like, I don't know, man. Like we're starting to see our own, like the U.S. economy is in a downturn. So maybe that mismatch is what we're seeing.
I definitely agree with that point, and not just coming from, you know, a business owner perspective, like just even friends that I have who consume and are fans of K-pop, like, yeah, I mean, inflation was just such a big topic of 2024. Like, our gas prices are crazy, our egg
Yes.
prices now are crazy, that kind of thing, and like when you have your basic needs be difficult to get, like you're not gonna buy your third version
Nope.
of Skiz Hop so that you can pull Felix. Like it's just not happening. And yeah, I've talked to a lot of people, customers and friends alike, who have shared stories like that. So it definitely is, related to the bigger economic picture. And I think how this story plays out will depend on how the economy plays out for us over the next year. With this new administration and so on and so forth. Because now there's talk of tariffs too. So like that's going to
Yes.
change a lot of things when it comes to how we're able to purchase and consume goods from other countries. And Korea is on that list. Like it will, happen soon. And yeah, I think overall that mismatch of what you're talking about definitely is one of the key contextual, pieces of information that contribute to the dramatic or not so dramatic dips in, charts and slowing of growth and such. It's just, we definitely have to contend with the fact that at the end of the day, spending on entertainment and all those kinds of things, it's a lot harder when it's harder to feed your family or feed yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think in terms of what the Korean labels are doing, definitely kind of recognize the moment. And yeah, the demand just doesn't meet the supply right now. Because, it's not that people don't want to engage with K-pop necessarily. It's just more like, I need gas for the week. That's an album right there.
So real. That's
Yep.
an album, a tank of gas.
That's crazy.
You heard
Yeah.
it.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, it's true, but it's crazy that like that's what it is. But I think like we're seeing sort of a correction with concert tours. Like they're announcing them far more in advance after like many of us last year and the year before were like, hey, nobody has money. Like we
Nope.
can't save. Although Head in the Clouds today announced G-Dragon and 21 and Dean going, and they're like, tickets on sale in 3 days, guys.
Okay.
So maybe they didn't get the memo, but I think maybe Pip, you mentioned that like they drop so many versions of albums, which like makes sense when you're like doing the photo card. But like maybe if you just released one version and sold that, you could charge a little bit more for it instead of like two cheaper ones. Also, less plastic. Yay.
Yeah. Save the
Oh, for
environment.
sure. I think that's a big factor as well. Like, again, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I think what people love about K-pop, whether it's in the music or the videos, is a level of creativity that you just don't get with, say, Western pop and such. And so when, you have a Chill Kill bag or a New Jeans bag, a lot of bags now in K-pop, or, a limited edition aespa album that's like a CD player, that kind of thing. It's just so cool and so creative. But I can't afford to buy it. It's just that simple. Like, so yeah, it's it's an unfortunate just sign of the times that there's all this really cool stuff happening in K-pop, but it's just not plausible to be able to buy all these things. So yeah.
Yeah, PD님, I know you're a fan and consumer and reader. So how has the K-pop decline been affecting you, or like how do you participate in it?
Well, as somebody who does not live in a major city in the United States,
True.
we
Holding
very
it down
recently
for Fresno, California.
got our first K-pop store, and it closed this year.
Oh, oh, you got our hopes up first.
I very much feel this decline, especially when it comes to the fact that having a K-pop store in your city means you have usually, or in our case, we had a business that was able to sponsor tours. So we had our first K-pop concert in my city with TAN's tour this last year and the year before. And so for me, I feel the fact that there might not be as many mom and pop Korean music stores in other cities that aren't major cities, in at least here in the US, is kind of worrisome for just that fact of, like, a lot of times these are the businesses that are sponsoring Korean artists to come to cities that aren't LA, that aren't San Francisco, that aren't Chicago, that aren't, so it's I feel a little bit, worried and about just that, as far as just being a fan out here that doesn't necessarily have the money to go travel to all these tours, like how much these Korean music stores are important for the fan experience in countries outside of Korea. So that was kind of my immediate reaction, to be honest, thinking about the decline of specifically album sales. Like those are just kind of my initial reaction to it. But something that did come up, at least when I was kind of like researching the topic, was something that the Secretary General pointed out of the Korean Music Content Association in the Jungang Daily article back in December, about the decline, not in just new albums, but also old albums, which in this case, they consider albums that were released 6 months ago or a period longer than 6 months.
Okay.
But the fact that the decline, at least from the KMCA's perspective of old albums, also is an indicator for them that there aren't necessarily new fans in the industry. And to me, that makes a lot of sense, thinking about, again, since 2015, this immense exponential growth of K-pop and its place in greater popular culture around the world, and new fans coming into the industry. So I'd actually be interested to hear from you, Pip, about like this specific metric of looking at, older K-pop albums sales as an indicator of how the market is doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great, reference point. Something that I haven't thought that much about, but I think what you are kind of gleaning from that is that someone isn't getting into, let's say, give me a group, ATEEZ. Okay, let's say ATEEZ in 2024, and there are not a lot of people getting into ATEEZ for the first time in 2024, and then back collecting older albums. I think that's part of that kind of discussion. Again, at the end of the day, I think there is some truth to that. But it doesn't paint the entire picture, because, just from knowing my customers, I know people who are getting into K-pop in 2024, and it can be a new group like a Baby Monster, or it can be a group that has a long discography like Stray Kids, or even older than that, Blackpink, for example. And it's not necessarily that they're not interested in the older albums, or that these groups aren't getting new fans. Again, it's just you're gonna get the latest and greatest. You're gonna get the newest release, because that's your entry point, and that is the thing that you're excited about, or the previous comeback got you excited, that kind of thing. And so I think it is just a piece of the puzzle that we're talking about in terms of the overall the slowing down of the growth in terms of people being able to buy and collect, versus it being an indicator of lack of interest in such groups. Because I think just this past holiday season, there were so many younger fans who came into the store, and they're really, really excited to get I brought up Baby Monster specifically, because those are one of those groups that that's your entry point now. You're 12 or 13 and you're just getting into it, so it's the rookie groups of 2024 that you're going to jump into wholeheartedly. So it kind of is just about the different years and generations that go on in K-pop. That's the cycle. Really, is like you get into the genre not necessarily from a group that is 7 years old. Sometimes it's the group that debuted just a couple months ago or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that
I'm a
makes
Baby
so much.
Monster. Sorry, I just wanted
Yeah,
to
the
say
young
that. I
people love Baby Monster. You're a
yes,
fan
I'm
on
the
the
young
pod.
person. Young person tomorrow.
Yes.
Famously young.
Super young.
Sorry, I interrupted you just to say that. Sheesh deserves all the love.
Sheesh. Yes, and right. I mean, I wonder if we turn our attention to the labels who are really like the business decision makers here about how to respond to this data or this crisis, as the media is calling it. Have like what are some of the strategies that we have seen the labels, the businesses employ to maybe avoid or escape the consequences of a decline in album sales? Have we seen labels start to pivot or move in new ways to get around this?
I don't necessarily think I have like a great idea right now of like being in a label room, meeting room, and like making decisions, but something that I've noticed and like it seems quite intentional, and I don't think it's just because so pretty much a lot of rookie groups nowadays aren't releasing albums. Like they're not like, yeah, they might release a physical maybe, but it's not a real album. Like, right.
Nah.
Like they're waiting time to get to the real album. So essentially like you're going to have a bunch of singles. Like I think of Rise, they had a bunch of
Yes.
singles before a release. And now we're seeing that with a lot of groups. So I think that like they're kind of getting into the idea that, and like usually that you would just have debut album drops, and like that's not saying that nobody's doing that, but I think that we're going to start seeing this shift where people are kind of like building up careers a little bit more, or like we're seeing like a lot of pre-release singles from K-pop in recent years, and which like obviously helped people like Rose. Like APT was technically a pre-release, right? A part two. Right, like we're seeing Jenny do the same thing where she's doing the rollout, which is a very like American artists do that because they need to get marketing, right? Like you're not just dropping, like the only people who can, like a surprise album drop only can happen not surprise essentially, but like but
one or two artists, right? I think I know who you're
right,
gonna
like
say.
Beyonce's well, she's the one who like everyone cites as like the top, is the one who like did the big album. But like even New Jeans, right? Like there was a lot of buzz around the Hybe Mini Jin girl group, and they just were like, "Hello, we're here with a whole album and song." The album didn't come out right away, did it? No, they released some songs first, right? So and then the album, the one with the bag. I have that bag too. I love albums with bags. And I think that just like that's something we're seeing with a lot of the newer groups, which what you and you were talking
New
about
Jeans
younger.
did release. They released like 4 songs at the same time. I think
Right.
4 or
But
5.
yeah, and then like the album was like a few, like not the same day, like they were rolling out the songs, and then the music videos were like 2 music videos.
Yep.
The first was it 2 or 3, so like there was a steady rollout, and it was all on top of each other, but like so even that short, but like you're starting to see like longer breaks of like here's a bunch of singles and here's the album with all those singles, so you can buy, and which is a little bit more typical of West American marketing for albums. But I think it's interesting something you said earlier about like younger audiences. I just think maybe these kids just don't have money like to buy the album, so they're gonna wait until like who has money? Older people. And guess what? Older people right now, people who make money are concerned about egg prices, and
Or they're waiting
airline.
for BTS to come back.
Also something I like, as we're talking, I really want to see like a graph that shows the end of the student debt freeze in the US,
Ooh.
right? The correlation, right? Because people had to start paying debt. Was it last year or late
We're
last
on
year?
it. Yes.
Like
I would love to
or,
see that
late
graph.
last year, I mean, late
that would
23
go viral.
right? Like, right? Like, I mean, like correlation isn't causation, but like I think that might be a good correlation, just at least for American market sales. So I think that that's not a label thing, but that was just something I was thinking of. But I think that the singles to album pipeline is something we might keep an eye on. I don't know if that's 100%. That's just my where I'm sitting, what it
Yeah.
looks like.
Yeah, we're
Anyone
seeing
else?
any other adaptive strategies that we're noticing.
For from my perspective, yeah, I kind of touched on it earlier, but the variety in what labels are putting out, I think to me is also kind of a sign of them trying to capitalize on the success of 2022 and 2023, because like I said, so many different types of things. I think what I've noticed in 2024 as well, in terms of products, is there's a lot more apparel coming out, a lot more different unique types of merch as well. And so I think they're trying to kind of branch into some adjacent industries. I mean, there's always been, a shirt here and there for like EXO or whatever. But in 2024, you now have JN releasing hoodies and shirts and like a pair of socks. That's not true, but you get what I'm saying, like that kind of thing.
Honestly, I'm a merch girl, so I like will buy it all. Like
Yeah.
like I'm saying, I love the albums with bags that are actually useful. I haven't used any of them, but I have thought about using them.
Yeah, I'm down
No,
for
absolutely.
apparel. Let's go.
Busuk Sun put out their album Second Wind like a year and a half ago, and it was a shoebox that came with a headband, a pair of socks,
have it.
and
Wow.
yeah, exactly. So again, like
telling
hats off to the companies for their creativity, and I think both a really good thing and a sign of how they're adapting and recognizing what people want. But at the same time, it can kind of be part of the oversaturation issue as well. So there's going to be a tricky balance, I think. And a lot of this stuff I'm talking about is coming from some of the larger labels, SM, JYP, and such. The amount of merch that we as a business have to keep track of and try to put in our store has grown exponentially and has been like a really big pain in our in our daily life. But yeah, so I think just the different types of merch, different types of things related to their artists is getting more and more creative and more interesting. But at the same time, it is flooding the market quite a bit. So it's kind of back and forth. Yep.
Also, for official merch is now more available more easily in the US, which I think is interesting. Like, I was looking for a specific Stray Kids bag for a friend for the holidays, like a tote bag from one of their concerts, and like all the K-pop retailers in the country had it. And I was just like, what? Like, you couldn't get concert merch in the US. You'd have to get a friend to get it from you in Korea or buy it from someone in Korea or Japan. Like, you'd have to get it, like, sent over to you. And it was just like, I was like shocked. I didn't end up buying it for her. I would have bought it from Sarang Hello if you guys had it. But I was shocked. I was just like, wait, what do you mean you guys are getting the concert merch? And I noticed the store in New York had some. Like they would have like IU Soul Show like keychains and stuff. I'm like, how are you getting this? And it seemed, and I'm like wondering, like there must be some sort of push. Like, okay, albums, let's sell other things. Like, I have a friend who spent so much money on the Zeros BT20, not BT20, the Zero Base one. Yeah, the Zeronis. So I had a friend who spent so much money on the Zeronis, and like, it's true. You'll spend more money. Like maybe you'll spend less money on a cushion than you would an album, but you'll still spend the money on the cushion because like, oh, it's cozy and this is only $12 versus the $50 album or something. Those things were not $12.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We've had more access this past year and a half to tour merch as well. And then, so yeah, what you're seeing across the different stores is the companies are making that more available, 100%. Like we have a whole section dedicated to pickets, which is those fan-shaped things with
Oh,
artists.
the fans, yes.
Or, yeah, the member faces on them. And it's like we don't even have a stop in San Francisco for this particular tour, but we have the picket, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's definitely more accessible now for sure.
I mean, before we close here, we've mentioned a few times, BTS, New Jeans, Blackpink, some of the big names that have been really carrying a lot of the revenue generation and K-pop interest and fervor over the past few years. Some experts in the Chosunilbo article attribute the decline primarily to the absence of these big groups, BTS and Blackpink, being on hiatus in some way, and newer generation groups showing a decline in album sales, or like not being able to replicate the rise of a BTS or Blackpink. And I think about New Jeans and how their momentum has been, prematurely cut off. I know, pour one out. We have yet to see how things are going to turn out for them in the end. But what do y'all think about that explanation? Like, how big of an impact might BTS or Blackpink returning and coming back have on the album sale numbers? I mean, I'll hand it to Pip first. Are you expecting a bump from that?
For sure. I mean, I think BTS isn't fully coming back until 2026.
Right.
So it's going to be a very, very long wait to see any kind of, resurgence or anything like that. But Blackpink later this year. I think, honestly, I have a funny story about that real quick.
Please.
So when BTS announced, or not announced, but their enlistment was coming up, and it made global headlines because, of course, it did. We had family members call us and say, "Hey, are you guys gonna be okay? Like, what does this mean for you? Are you guys gonna like?" And for us, again, similarly to now, there was like a sense of doom and gloom about K-pop without your, your poster child groups, right? In 2023, which is when most of the members started their enlistments and finished up their solo work, I'm going to bring it back to 17. They sold a record number of albums, 16 million or whatever it was.
That's right.
Stray Kids was killing it as well, huge numbers from them. And so our internal discussion amongst us, the three of us owners, was like, okay, so now that BTS is gone, and they were a huge driver of sales, I'm not going to lie, for those first 3 years, we were kind of looking at, 17 is carrying right now. Stray Kids is carrying us right now. LE SSERAFIM was carrying us quite a bit. And New Jeans, of course. Like, all of those groups were, pulling their weight in a sense. And that's kind of what I'm expecting this year, while BTS is still not doing their thing, and Blackpink is, I think they're touring first. I don't know if an album is on the horizon. But what I'm trying to say is as a store owner, I'm not reliant on BTS and Blackpink at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we do have to kind of look at the other groups who are doing well and hope that their success continues, and that new groups also find their certain levels of success as new groups continue to come out. And it's interesting that you mentioned New Jeans, because I really feel like, and Tamar, you can let me know what you think, that if there was a group to be that quote unquote generational shift torch bearer of a group, I feel like New Jeans was really on its way. And so for this to happen in New Jeans, that's the thing I'm worried about more so than a lack of resurgence thanks to Blackpink and BTS. It's the fumbling of the bag, if you will, by HYBE, who had not only New Jeans but LE SSERAFIM as well. Like, you had 2 or 3 girl groups who could be the representative girl groups all at the same time, in the same way that Blackpink and Twice were for the 3rd gen. And instead you have this crazy infighting that halted the momentum, as you put it, Stephanie. So yeah, that I'm more worried about that. I'm more worried about the group that I thought was gonna carry the torch, possibly not even being together anymore in 2025. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're dealing with like visa issue. Like I agree with you. Like I mean, I think there were so many different things at play, but it just felt like a really messy situation for many, many reasons, and just unfortunate for every girl group under hype right now. I just like am sad for in some different way. Um, I'm I actually I mean like I agree with everything you said, Pip. I'm not sure if I ever really girl groups will sell albums to their fans, but I'm not sure if like they generally like. I know people who would be like, "Oh, this is BTS album. Let me get it because I like BTS." But like in girl groups, I'm not sure if they necessarily get the boy band fans the same way that like a casual girl group fan might buy a boy band album occasionally, especially if they're like a woman, like people who maybe are the target audience more than like I'm not saying I don't think in binaries about anybody, let alone K-pop fans, but I think there are probably more female identifying or female identifying fans or women identifying. I'm too tired right now. Whatever. I think there are generally more women fans who would listen to both girl groups and boy bands, even if they like girl groups, than there are guys. So, like, if you're a boy band fan, that doesn't mean you're not listening to girl. No, I'm confusing myself now.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
If you're a girl group if you're a girl group stan primarily, you probably also listen to boy bands. I feel like boy band stans tend to not listen to girls a lot until they become like intense espais. Like you gotta get the girl crush. You can't have cutesy. Boy band fans hate cutesy. No, that's just reason. I hate it. Bring
Banger
back cutesy boy
clangers
bands.
only. Yeah.
Bring back cutesy boys.
Cutesy boys, yes, please. That's how we can save K-pop. More cutesy boys.
Boy jeans forever.
Boy jeans. Boy jeans.
To Us is working on that. Don't worry. To Us.
Yeah. And so that brings us, I think, to what are some of the creative ways that we, from our role in K-pop, can, take this as an opportunity? Is there a silver lining here? Is there opportunity here with physical album sales, maybe not growing as much as in previous years? Where do we turn?
Save money.
Yes.
Stop buying paper. I love paper. Paper boys and paper girls make you happy, but eggs are important for life and gas. But also support Sarang Hello.
Yes. If you're going to make one K-pop purchase, make it at Sarang Hello.
Yes, please. We would appreciate that a lot. But no, yeah, same thing. I haven't had eggs in like a month, I think.
What?
So,
I haven't bought eggs in a
totally agree
while.
with you.
I
Yeah.
think you got to get them at Costco. The bulk deal is the way to go.
I saw $100,000 worth of Costco eggs just fell off a truck today.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Maybe not anymore. For your store, as you're planning, are you thinking of making any changes to the inventory to adapt to
For
what
sure.
you're seeing?
No, yeah, for sure. We've
If you wanna
already
share,
been-
yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm more than willing to share. Yeah, it's been an interesting challenge for us, like with the overall sales dip or slowing growth, as well as like there's so many K-pop stores now. PDNim, I'm sorry to hear
Yeah.
that yours closed down, but yeah, just in general, there are a lot that have popped up since we've opened, just in our kind of local area. And so we definitely have to be really creative with how we strategize, be really responsible with how we purchase, and kind of recognize what people are looking for. And I think we've been really good at that, just in general, as like understanding what K-pop fans and customers and maybe even new people might be looking to get into, things that are adjacent to K-pop that we're not interested in just one thing. Even though we love K-pop, we like a lot of different things, and it can kind of be related to that, like collectible, figures. And you guys know how Sunny Angels and Labubus are kind of taking over as well. It's like a lot of the same, customer behavior behind blind boxes and that kind of thing. It's very much similar to the joys and the ups and downs of buying K-pop albums. If you're collecting photo cards and such, it's essentially a blind box. So we're trying out a lot of different things. We might even try our foray into content as well, because that's always fun, and that's like I mentioned earlier, a great space for K-pop to continue to grow. So yeah, it'll just be a really fun challenge for us to be super creative and leverage all the skills that we have. So yeah.
Good luck. As you were talking, you just reminded me of like when I was very young, a baby. Like when cards, my brother was going into like, it must have been a collectible store, but he was going specifically for his Magic the Gathering cards. And I remember being shocked that there were like Pokemon cards there. And I was like, in retrospect, I'm like, right, like they were like doing cross, like, if people are coming in for Magic cards, they might come in also and pick up a pack of Pokemon. Like they didn't have a ton of them at the time. I definitely would outsell Pokemon cards over Magic the Gathering cards. But like, it's interesting to see. I hope it goes well. Also, I'm looking at your site right now for season's greetings, and I'm glad that most are sold out. All the ones I want are sold out.
That's a great sign.
Send me a
sign.
message. We'll figure it out.
Oh no, live troubleshooting.
No, I really hope for the best for you. I hope things ease up just on Americans and just the world in general financially. We'll see.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing from you, or what I want to just reflect back, Pip, is that instead of panicking, instead of closing up or completely pivoting to brand new business models, what I'm hearing from you is that you are kind of honing in, doubling down on what you know, what you do best and know best, which is you understand the fans. You understand the people, the human beings in your community and what they are interested in, what they come to you for, the service you provide. And so by focusing on that, like the customer experience and like those people and like riding this wave together, it's just like paints this beautiful picture, right? Of like, it's about humans, it's about relationships, it's about the fans at the end of the day. And that's why that's why Sarang Hello has been a pillar, an institution, one might say, in K-pop shopping and sales and product. And it's just clear from hearing you speak that you have your finger on the pulse of like what's really important. The heartbeat within K-pop is not, we've been talking about album sales all night, but we know it's not that. We know that's not the heart, the essence of K-pop. It's the people, it's the fans. So
yeah, definitely 100%. And yeah, the store was started because we were fans first. So it's not that much of a stretch to like figure out or empathize or, connect with fans, because that's literally us, selfishly. We started this store because we didn't have any place to get albums and we wanted to collect. So
Yep.
That's not selfish. That's problem solving.
Problem solving, exactly.
How all great businesses start.
100%. Yeah, so, I think, like I mentioned about like content creation and this kind of thing, podcasts and writing, I think IRL, the community aspect of K-pop has been one of the best things for us as a store to connect with. Like, we have people here who hang out, they trade PCs, they talk about K-pop. We have trade events where people can attend for free and, meet other fellow fans. We've had groups of friends who became friends because they met at the store and now they go to concerts together or sometimes even travel together. And it's like, that is a big focus for Sarang Hello, as well as the community aspect of it. And that honestly brings us almost too much joy to ever like consider giving the business up. Like it is tough times right now, but we still love this too much. We love the music too much, and we love the people that we've met too much. So that's what we're going to continue fighting for sure.
You made a third place.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so special. Also, I have one final point. Sorry, I know we're like
Please.
over on time, and I'm like
Sorry.
crying because I'm like friends.
Yeah.
Friendships are gorgeous. I feel like we kept on talking about it, but we like never actually said it, that like K-pop is part of something called like the Korean wave, because the ebb and flow of popularity goes in and out in different markets over time. So like I feel like we were talking about it being like a reset of like the immediate past few years, but it's like I'm not like unconvinced. Like maybe it won't go back quite a bit, and like maybe they'll have to figure out something new, how the industry works. But like, you know, TikTok's also going to change how that, like, whatever happens to TikTok. But like before, you know, until someone invented all the different individual album versions per members, that wasn't a thing. And same thing with photo cards. Like until these things started, something wasn't happening. So like they'll figure something out, and like who knows? Maybe everyone will sell CD players with their albums that everybody wants and nobody can get.
Sounds like speaking from experience.
I don't know. Maybe Pip can help me out. Get this Espa CD player out.
Bro, I don't even have one myself, so yeah.
They cost
it's
like
tough times.
$500.
For real.
Wow. These are the times we live in. And PD, from your perspective as a fan and as an observer, consumer, what do you think K-pop should do to adapt or make an opportunity out of this situation?
Well, I know we've been mentioning a lot of things, or at least the thing that, again, as somebody who's been riding this Hallyu wave for over a decade now, like I agree with Tamar. Like there's ebbs. It's a wave. You know, we're gonna ebb and flow and ebb and flow. I don't think it's a phase.
We're all tags. We're here for life.
K-pop is here to stay. But I do want to take it back to kind of like the TikTok of it all, and just kind of like this idea of, you know, we're mostly focusing on the selling of K-pop albums. But I think that as the industry adapts, I feel it'd be really interesting for me. I am as a fan, am really interested to see what other new things come out of this kind of moment from K-pop, especially when it comes to the reactions that we've been seeing from this moment. I'd be really interesting to see, like you said, all of the innovations and things that are going to be part of new additions to our community.
Yes. We will all be watching, and hopefully we can all get together another time and celebrate K-pop in its new wave, new iteration, whatever it looks like in the future. I know we'll all be here. Maybe 10 more years from now.
Yeah,
So,
10 more years.
10 more years. When
10 more albums.
When Irene releases her 10th album, we will be here.
Yeah, let's all go to that concert together, guys.
Yeah.
Barricade.
All right. So we're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much to our guests for bringing your expert insights. Please let our listeners know where they can find you online, find your work, anything you want to promote. We'll start with Pip.
Again, thank you so much for having me. If you guys ever need me to come back, please don't hesitate to ask. I would love to give more song recommendations, because choosing one was really, really difficult, as I told Peter in our call yesterday. That being said, I own a K-pop store here in San Francisco called Sarang Hello. If you guys are ever in the area, please check it out. You can find us online at saranghello.com and on all of the different social media platforms, mainly Instagram and TikTok at Sarang Hello SF. So please check us out if you can. Thank you so much.
you. And then Tamara, where can we find you and your work?
Social media is up in the air, so I'd suggest everybody please like and subscribe my newsletter, Notes on K-pop. It's notesonkpop.com, or my website is tamaraherman.com. Pretty much has the same stuff on it with some more articles on tamaraherman.com when I publish elsewhere, which happens occasionally. But yeah, please subscribe to Notes on K-pop if you're interested in my thoughts on the business and music side of things, and random recommendations for songs that you should be listening to.
Ooh, all right.
And specific podcasts, especially. Oh, I have to give a shout out. I do have to give a shout out. I did a big end of year article inspired by Peter.
Yeah.
So he suggested like a year ago when I was like trying to figure out what to do for newsletter. He's like, you should do a running like bingo scorecard for the K-pop companies. And I didn't do that, but I did do an end of year scorecard for the big four, and I owe Peter that, and I might be doing a quarterly one, so TBD. But it was him.
Okay.
So it's very very good. Ideating.
That's brilliant.
I know, right? So smart. We'll have you back next time, Peter. And then for me, you can find me, Stephanie, on Instagram at Catchlight27.
And you can find me at PDNim on our K-Pop Cast Slack. And of course, you can find the whole K-Pop Cast crew on the K-Pop Cast Slack.
And if you want to support the show, please consider donating to our Ko-fi. All right, thank you so much again, everyone. 10 more years. 10 more years.
10 more years.
10 more years.
10 more years.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.